Hi guys, welcome back for the paper 3 predictions, and today we are just going to be focusing on contract law for the AQA exams. So in this video we will only be discussing contract law. However, I can give you guys a brief kind of understanding of what question line could be in human rights, because it tends to be the same theory that is tested but just different substantive laws. So guys, predicting paper 3 has probably been one of the hardest things to do. I even had this issue last year when I was doing it for TikTok, because it's just really difficult. There's not really any common themes or questions or anything. So predictions did take a while to do and kind of figure out. However, here are my list of predictions for the exam. So let's start with question 9. This year it has been really good. Well, I would say it's been quite good. You guys were given fault for paper 1 and morality for paper 2. So in terms of having the really good trio in law, ideally it would be justice for paper 3 for question 9. So what I've kind of said question 9 could be for this year is justice or freedom of contract for the whole of contract law. So not just one specific area, but I think it will assess the entire contract law area. The reason why I do think it could be justice as well would ideally be because last year it was balancing conflicting interests. The reason why I think it could potentially be freedom of contract is because justice was assessed 2 years ago, and last year it was balancing conflicting interests. Hence why I think freedom of contract would be a good question, and this was last assessed in 2020, so it's been a very long time coming. So guys, I've just said for question 9 it could be justice or freedom of contract. So it could also be justice for human rights as well. So just make sure that you guys know how to answer a justice question. It's very important. Question 9, as a recap, is most likely going to be justice or freedom of contract for contract law. So let's go backwards. We'll move on to the 10 markers. So question 8. I think this question is going to be Consumer Rights Act services, only because this hasn't actually been tested as a 10 marker, and with services it is quite short, so maybe it probably will add the remedies to the question as well. So that is what I think question 8 will be. Question 10, which is the first 30 marker, I think this could be misrepresentation grouped with frustration. So misrepresentation and frustration are the two classic combos. However, the last few years they've actually not been tested together. The last time this was tested together was in 2023, so 3 years ago, and prior to that it was last tested in 2020. So you've got a 3-year pattern from 2020 to 2023. Hence why I think question 10 would be misrepresentation and frustration. And if you guys are struggling with law content, A-level law content, please contact my tutoring company at Muse Tutoring for any last minute A-level law support. So question 11, this was quite a hard one to predict because it's always grouped with very random combinations. So the last few years I can't even tell you there's even a pattern, because there's no pattern. It's just sporadically been thrown in there, lots of different combinations all together. So what I kind of made a list of what it could be is Consumer Rights Act but for goods, formation of a contract which would include counter offers and exclusion clauses, and then for the weird 7 marker towards the end of the questioning 11, because as we know questioning 11 is 23 marks for substantive law, 7 marks for the non-substantive part. So what I think the kind of weird 7 marker embedded in that questioning 11, I do believe it could be rule of law or independence of the judiciary. So those are my predictions for contract law for this year. I'll be very honest, compared to my other 2 predictions, these were really hard to do, only because contract law doesn't really follow a set pattern. A lot of the content is always mix and match, and yeah, they just get tested anywhere. However, my biggest advice for contract law is just making sure you know the principles really well, especially when it comes to things such as misrepresentation, frustration, and the Consumer Rights Act. Also make sure you know the remedies. They're very important, especially in Consumer Rights Act. Contract law does have tailored remedies and tailored damages, so just make sure you are aware of this. So guys, that is the end of my predictions for the 2026 exams. I hope you guys do really well for the last paper, and all the best for the remainder of the A-level exams. You guys have got this, and if you guys want any support in terms of what to expect for a law degree or any tips and tricks on what to do before starting law school, please let me know and I can do a whole video about that as well. And I've heard a lot of mixed reviews about paper 1 and paper 2, so just push yourself, make sure you guys complete all the questions, and this is your last chance to make sure that you get the grade you deserve, especially if you feel like paper 1 and paper 2 may not have swung your way. This is your last opportunity to make sure you get those final marks so you can get into university or get into whatever apprenticeship or career role you want to get into. Please make sure you subscribe to the channel. I do want to post regular content in terms of supporting students, especially in the field of law, so make sure you are subscribed and follow my socials, which will be linked in the bio.